All right. Welcome back, everybody. It is Friday. We had the start of the NFL regular season last night. I had the Lions picked to win if Kelsey didn't play. When I made my previous video, we weren't sure if he was playing or not, but he did not play, and Detroit ended up winning the game. So I'm going to go ahead and go through my picks for the rest of the weekend. So starting off the early games at noon, we have the Falcons hosting the Panthers. I think the Falcons take that. Panthers have a lot of injuries, a lot of people that are not going to be playing, and I think the Falcons have a pretty decent offense. So I have the Falcons winning that game. We have the newly highest paid player in NFL history, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals playing on the road against Cleveland. I know Joe Burrow has not historically played well or won when playing the Browns, but I do have the Bengals winning that game. I think he's fresh off that new contract. He's going to want to prove that he is worth it and that they didn't make a mistake paying that much. And Cleveland is just Cleveland is one of those teams. It's just Cleveland. I don't really trust them until they actually start to prove it. So I'm gonna have to go with the Bengals on that one. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the road playing the Indianapolis Colts. No Jonathan Taylor for the first four games for the Colts, and Trevor Lawrence now having a second year with Doug Peterson. He's got Calvin Ridley. I think the Jags are going to roll through the Colts, and that should be an easy win. We have the Buccaneers playing on the road against the Vikings. I think the Vikings take this. Uh, Buccaneers quarterback situation is kind of up in the air. Really don't know who's going to be the long term starter. Don't even know if the starters that at the beginning of the season they're going to be playing at the end of the season. So we could see a quarterback carousel going on there. So I'm going to have to take the Vikings with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. Much better offense. Next, we have the Tennessee Titans playing on the road in New Orleans against the Saints. I think the Saints have a good defense. I think Derek Carr is a good quarterback. So I could easily see the Saints rolling through the Titans on this one. So I got the Saints winning that. The next noon game is the 49ers on the road against the Steelers. This one's kind of a tough one for me. The 49ers just paid Bosa, and he's supposed to play, even though he hasn't really been with the team most of the offseason. Uh, is he going to be on a snap count? How much is he going to be able to play? Are they going to really trust him to be out there a lot? And I mean, when you see somebody sit out and then show up for week one and they haven't really been playing, haven't really been practicing, yeah, they always say they're in the best shape of their life, but have they been in pads day in and day out like the rest of the team? Have they been, doing the same kind of work and putting in the same effort as the other players on the team? And a lot of times you see somebody show up and they play them too much too early, and you end up seeing like soft tissue injury, a hamstring pull or strain, like a calf issue. So it's kind of it's kind of up in there on how well Bosa is going to play after being away from the team. San Francisco is the favorite. I know a lot of people are really big on Kenny Pickett and George Pickens and the Steelers' offense looking a lot better. They played well in the preseason, but it's preseason where they playing against quality starters. San Francisco has a good defense. Um, Ultimately, I'm going to have to go with 49ers on this one. I think this will be one of the better games of the weekend, one of the closer games. And really, that game could go either way, but I think the 49ers win. You have the Washington Commanders hosting the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are in all kinds of disarray. They have all kinds of issues. And ultimately, I think they're going to intentionally lose a lot of games this year so that they can get a top pick and draft a quarterback for next year. I don't think the new GM and coach want Kyler Murray as their long term quarterback. So I got the Commanders winning that. The Ravens are hosting the Houston Texans. No surprise there. The Ravens are favored, and I think they will win. I think this could end up being one of the more lopsided games of the weekend. You have Lamar Jackson, quite a few new weapons to throw to, and typically Lamar Jackson early in the seasons, when he's been the healthiest, has played very well. later in the seasons when he's gotten dinged up is when he's played worse. And Houston having a new quarterback and just really not really a great team all around. They're kind of in rebuild mode right now. I just don't see them competing with Ravens whatsoever. Starting the 3:30 games, we have the Packers on the road against the Chicago Bears. That's the oldest rivalry in NFL history. Obviously, a game I am highly invested in. And as much as it pains me to say this, I think the Bears win this game. I think the Packers end up being a better team over the course of the season. But right now, I think the Bears win this game Sunday. There are some question marks at wide receiver for Green Bay. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, both being on the injury report, both not practicing earlier in the week due to hamstrings. And I think Dobbs actually got back into practice on a limited basis. Watson is still has not practiced. So you're putting a lot of pressure on Jordan Love with a bunch of rookie receivers and tight ends if Watson and Dobbs don't play, or even if only one play. I mean, Green Bay really needs both of those guys on the field to win a lot of games this year. They can win some games with one of the two, but their best chances with them both on the field. I know they have a good running game. They have a good offensive line, a lot of talent on defense. But ultimately, I think the Bears win week one. Next, we have the Raiders on the road in Denver against the Broncos. I think I think Sean Payton will have made an effect on the team, and I think that Denver will come out and beat the Raiders. I don't think the Raiders have everything going their way right now. Yes, they did get Josh Jacobs back in there on somewhat of a reworked deal with some incentives for on his franchise tag, but ultimately, I don't really know how well Jimmy Garoppolo is going to push the ball down the field. I don't really know how well him and Devontae Adams are going to work together. We could see some issues with communication, new quarterback, all that. So we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, I think the Broncos win that game. I think Sean Payton will have them ready. Next, we have the Eagles on the road against the Patriots. A this is, I mean, for most people, this is not a tough game, but I feel like this is a tough game to pick. I know the Eagles are really good. They were really good last year. They did lose a few starters. I think they've replenished some of them in the draft, and I think they've made some decent moves to get other players in. They have a new offensive and defensive coordinator, but the head coach is the same. So I don't think he's going to allow two completely new systems come in and really drastically change things up from what they did last year. I think it's one of those things of we know what we're really good at based off last year, so we're going to incorporate as much of that as we can into these new systems, and what we weren't good at, try to eliminate and adjust to get better at. So, and Bill Belichick, he's a defensive coach. He's a very good coach. So it's really hard to just straight up say, "Oh yeah, I think Philly's going to win this game," because New England's going to come into this with some kind of a plan. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to the quarterback play, and Jalen Hurts is a much better quarterback than Mac Jones. And when the time comes, Hurts is athletic enough to get the job done with his legs. He can make really good throws. He's got two really good receivers to throw the ball to, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So ultimately, I do think Philly wins this game, but I think it's a lot closer than what people expect. Next, we have the Dolphins and the Chargers. Chargers are the home team. I think the Chargers, with the new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, healthy receivers, Austin Eckler, he's still there. So Justin Herbert's been a great quarterback. He's put up great numbers every year of his career. I think that trend continues, and I think with the new offense with Kellen Moore, I think the Chargers offense is quite explosive, and ultimately, I don't think Miami's going to keep up with them. I think the Chargers have a little bit better defense. I think they're going to have a little bit better run game. Miami doesn't really have a run game at all, and if again, like I said in a previous video, if Tua is one sack away from missing the rest of the season, I mean, ultimately, I feel like he's a one sack away from retiring. So how how much protection does he get? How rattled is he going to be if he starts getting sacked early or getting hit early or close to it? So ultimately, I just think the Chargers are the better team here. I think they're the better pick, so I'm going with the Chargers. The last of the afternoon games will be the Rams on the road in Seattle against the Seahawks. We know Cooper Cup's having a lingering hamstring injury. We know that Matthew Stafford, his wife, has said that he's having trouble connecting with younger teammates, and all of that just really doesn't really bode well for a team going into the season with what looks like they're going to be in some form of disarray. Meanwhile, in Seattle, everything was clicking last year. Everything went really well with them with Geno Smith. Pete Carroll always has a defense ready to play, and with it being in Seattle, I think Seattle pulls out the win, and that moves us to the Sunday night game. That will be the New York Giants hosting the Dallas Cowboys. I think this will be a really good game. I think it'll be a pretty close game, and I think Dallas overall is the better team. Meanwhile, the Giants are the better coached, and I think that's going to play into why this game is as close as it is. But ultimately, at the end of the night, I think the Cowboys are going to be in the lead, and I think they're going to win this game. It's really going to come down to if Dak has multiple turnovers or if he can immediately show, like, game one, I'm eliminating the turnovers I had last season, but we'll just have to wait and see. And that leads us into Monday Night Football, a big division matchup between the Bills and the Jets. Jets are the home team hosting Monday Night Football in New York on 9/11. So it's going to be an emotional game for New York, for the Jets. We have Aaron Rodgers making his Jets debut on Monday Night Football. He has won, I think, 9 Monday Night Football games in a row, trying to make it 10, which is an amazing streak. We have the Bills, who've won this division the last 3 years, and the Jets trying to contend. And my pick is that the Jets pull the upset and win this game. I think their defense is better than the Bills' defense. The Bills have struggled the past few years getting a run game together. If they struggle with this one, the Jets have good running backs. They've got decent receivers. If Aaron Rodgers and the receivers are on the same page early and can protect Rodgers, let them get a little bit of a lead, let the Jets defense do what it does. I think Buffalo will be struggling, playing from behind, and I think that will ultimately lead to the Jets winning the game. So I'll write all these up and tally them up. We'll host a video next week and put up my numbers, my record for week one. But those are my picks for week one.